No, I'm kissing all of our lovely fans.
Oh,
because it is our 4-year anniversary.
And how are we celebrating it?
We are celebrating it by talking about ourselves, patting ourselves on the back for no reason for continuing to do a show every single week and bonus episodes. And we are talking about game night.
Yes, we are.
But this isn't your grandpappy's episode of the Macaw Podcast Universe hosted by Micah and Jordan Macaw. This is the kind where we can whittle away our time. We don't even have to tell you who's in the movie or what it's about or anything. We can just tell you the fun stuff because this is a sweet little kiss on the ears for you as a little bone episode. Bonus I'm talking about, not where it may have sounded.
Yuck.
So 4 years in, Jordan, can you kind of believe that we've been doing this for 4 years?
I don't just kind of believe it. I full on believe it.
You full on believe it. Another exciting year full of series.
To remind people, when we first started the podcast, we were like, oh, every year anniversary, we're going to cover another Land Before Time movie.
Right.
We made it to 2 of them.
Yeah, the second one was so bad. It was like, we're going to have nothing to talk about.
We got a very funny video from Micah out of it. That's still true. Gets in my head, stuck in my head sometimes, the song.
Yeah. I can't wait to see you. What's up today?
But so
Can
after
you hear me calling?
after we because we did Land Before Time because it's stop. Because it's a big part of our childhood. Let's revisit it, but like casually and have a fun time. And they were like, we thought, let's make it even more fun and just cover any movie we want.
Yeah, these are movies that they're not attached to sequels.
Yeah.
They're not a franchise.
Yeah.
And so last year we did Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first time we broke format. And then this year we're talking about Game Night, which is one of my favorite movies.
Just yours?
Yeah, Jordan hates the movie.
I love this movie.
No, I'm kidding. But before we do that, what do you think? Let's talk about the podcast.
What about it? When's this coming out?
This is coming out in April, so pretty soon.
Okay. Great time to tell people then.
Yeah.
That our podcast is gonna be available in a new format this month. I don't know when in April this is coming out. But
I think the 17th. I believe that's our release.
It's possible that this is available now. I can't remember the exact dates, but you can now get our podcast as an audiobook.
Yep.
Through pretty much anywhere you get your audiobooks.
Yeah.
You can find the Macaw Podcast Universe, where we have released 15 series that we've covered.
Yes.
All in one, like Harry Potter, all in one collection, Marvel Phase 1, and so on, all in their own collections.
Yeah.
And some of them have bonus material that you'll never hear if you just listen to the podcast.
That is true.
It's us looking back on a series.
Yeah, we did that on the first 3 Marvel phases.
Mm-hmm.
We did it on the DCEU, and that might be the only ones.
That's probably right, actually.
But other episodes, we all we released our Batman. That'll be one of the audiobooks. And that one, I also included the Batman episode that's on Patreon only, and the Batman 1966 movie that's on Patreon only.
Yeah, so exclusive content out on audiobook format.
Yeah.
Within these collections. Fun to have them in a different format. They got cool covers.
And it was fun to have a publisher be like, hey, we want to host your podcast, like distribute your podcast, and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if that interests you, if you want this in a physical format,
or digital,
you can now do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. Let's game the system, but not actually. But go to your local library and say, you can fill out little things. They have little cards that say, hey, I want this thing. And then they'll consider putting them in the local library. So I say go down to your library and say, we want the Macaw Podcast Universe. Pound on the doors. I know we have listeners that are not just in Southern Oregon. So go to the Medford Library, go to the Sacramento Library, go to the Davis Library, go to Chicago Library, go to Washington, D.C. Tell your representative. We want the Macaw Podcast Universe. But yeah, so that's like a big announcement.
Yeah.
I hope Yeah, it feels like maybe this will be one more step closer to us quitting the old day jobs.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We can only hope.
We can only hope.
And in addition to that, we've done pretty good on Patreon in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
We've released some pretty great episodes. I feel like our content on Patreon is as good as the main feed. And if anyone's not there yet, what are you doing? We have to. By 2024, we got to get to 50 patrons. We're so close, but so far away, it seems.
Yeah.
We need 14.
Yeah.
We need 14. It fluctuates, you know?
Yeah.
But we got to get there. We got to get there by December. Let's do it. Micah McCaw. Patreon.com/Micah McCaw.
Okay.
What else? We covered... It's fun doing Clint Eastwood, doing some Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
It's been fun doing the X-Men. By the time we're recording this, we've recorded all of them.
Yeah.
But pretty fun to fill in the blanks of X-Men.
Big blank spots for me.
Big blanks.
Big blanks.
We finally did all of Nightmare on Elm Street.
We did, which will probably be one of the biggest highlights for me on this podcast.
So fun.
Yeah.
Loved it. I do feel like, and I would be curious what people think about this. I do think this year we might, since a lot of our audience is not horror heads, a lot of them are, but a lot of them are not.
Yeah.
Maybe this year we give them a break and we don't do a horror series.
Okay, fine. Except for when Insidious 5 comes out, we're going to cover that.
Well, yeah, we got to do that. And yeah, so that's this year.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other series before that for some reason.
I am completely, my brain is melting.
What did we do after Fast and Furious last year?
I couldn't even tell you.
Was it Star Wars?
No.
No, we did that 2 years ago, didn't we?
Before.
When did we cover Star Wars, Jordan?
Oh, it was a time.
Oh, it was last year.
Okay.
So we did Star Wars last year. That was a big one.
We did that before Fast and Furious, though, right?
No, we did it after. So we did Fast and Furious, then we did Star Wars. We did Ong Bak.
Ah.
And we've done the Three Colors trilogy. You know.
Yeah, we did Star Wars in the spring.
Okay.
And then, well, we did Fast and Furious in the spring, Star Wars in the spring to summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
What was after Ong Bak?
After Ong Bak, we have, let's see.
Come on. No edits on this app.
There's a lot. Back to the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I would say, too. So I've been preparing the calendar to get us to the end of the year. Because if you haven't heard, if our Wolverine episode hasn't come out yet, we're having a baby in July. Can I say that?
Wow, you're saying it early.
Yeah, I think the Wolverine episode is out by now.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not positive. So we're having our first child, and so we're going on maternity leave, and we're going to be dead quiet, and we're not going to be doing any podcast stuff from July to September.
As the baby cries, we are silent.
Yes, but no, do not fear. Those episodes we are banking now as we speak.
You won't miss a step.
You won't miss a step. But as I was getting ready and I was planning out series, I was kind of like, it feels like we're starting to kind of have covered most of the big stuff. So what I would say is if you have some series that are driving you nuts that we haven't done, go ahead and message me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or let me know in a text because
Bug Micah, don't bug me.
Yeah, I do all the scheduling.
He fields the scheduling.
I love doing it.
And the buggers and all that.
Yeah. And then another thing to note is when we have the child, from June on, we will not be covering theatrical movies. And we'll catch up on those at the end of the year.
We will not be those people who bring their infants to the theaters.
No.
We will not be those people.
Yeah, so
which means you listeners have to make a little sacrifice and not get things as readily available as you're used to from us.
Well, but here's the thing: nothing's going to change for you guys except for the fact that you will just the theatrical. That's the only thing that changed. You're getting your episode every Friday. You're getting your Patreon episodes every first Wednesday of the month. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But, maybe this all works out so that we don't have to see The Flash until it comes out on streaming, and then we can record an episode. Maybe we don't have to see the Blue Beetle. Okay? Okay. So
it's a little bit of a break for us.
It feels so awesome to know I don't have to see The Flash in theaters.
Especially upon this recording, we have been to the theaters at least once a week for the past several weeks because of all these new releases.
This will be the third week in a row.
And I'm kind of tired of it.
Oh, that's nuts. I can't wait for tomorrow.
Well, I mean, if anyone listens to our podcast knows that we live in an area that has the worst theater etiquette. So I hate, I mean, I've said this for years, even pre-podcast.
You did.
I kind of hate going to the theaters. I love the big screen, the big sounds, all that stuff, but it is all absolutely ruined.
You hate the people.
By people.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel the same way, but like the experience is big enough that...
The magic is like lost on me because of people.
Yeah.
Because of sin in this world.
But yeah, so hey, let's talk about game night, eh?
Yeah.
Guess who didn't do any notes because it's an anniversary episode?
Micah.
Let's talk about when we saw this movie.
Yeah, this was a very funny memory for me.
Yeah.
This movie came out around the time I think the theater recliners were new.
Yes, this was the first movie we saw with him.
We made a big mistake.
Huge.
Well,
so, wait, before we get there, let me do the first little part. This movie came out, I didn't even see a trailer for this movie.
We didn't?
I didn't.
What sold you on it?
I was just seeing on IMDb News talk of this movie like getting a lot of critics are loving it, fans are loving it, and it was like a really surprising box office success, like its opening weekend. And it was kind of like, dang, like
this
comedies
random comedy based on nothing
haven't been doing that well in theaters lately, and this one is doing really well. And I was seeing stuff like people praising the script, for example, and so I'm like, okay, and it's got Jason Bateman in it. And I think that was...
Rachel McAdams.
I know, but I think at the time I was just like, okay, let's just go see this movie. Yeah. Apparently it's really good.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes the most pure form of seeing a movie.
It did feel like a hidden gem. Yeah. For sure. So our theater had just gotten the recliners. So that was also fun. A big thing everyone was anticipating.
Right.
And I remember I feel like we kind of had to have bought the tickets a little impromptu, with not a lot of planning ahead of time.
I think we bought them there. We didn't buy them ahead of schedule because it was...
That's right.
It wasn't that sort of thing yet.
Because once the recliners came in, you do reserve seats now.
Yeah.
So we get there, theater's kind of full.
It is full.
And so we're like, okay, we got to be a little bit closer to the screen than we're used to. No big deal. We really want to see this movie. I think we saw it with friends too. And it's like...
No, not the first time. It was just... I think Bobby was there.
Bobby was with us.
Yeah.
So we... we're like, oh, we'll be a little bit closer than we like, but whatever, it'll be fine.
It was the front row.
It was the front row.
The ones on the floor. Row.
Jason Bateman's jawline, I remember, went across the entire screen from my vantage point.
Yeah,
it was like it was so big and wide on the bottom.
Yeah,
and it was like. It looked so weird. It looked so weird.
It was crazy.
We watched the whole thing
we watched the whole movie, and I kind of figured like maybe with the recliners it won't be so bad. It was terrible.
It was so bad, but we still liked it a lot.
We liked it so much.
We laughed so hard, so much so that and this doesn't happen often.
I couldn't tell you the last time we did this.
But I was like, Mom, Dad, you gotta come see this movie with us. We gotta go again.
How about tomorrow, the day after we saw the movie?
The day after?
It was the day after we saw it.
Wow.
We were like, we got to see this movie again.
Yeah, that's probably... I can't remember the last time it happened. It's not happened since for me, where I've seen a movie...
Back? No.
2 days in a row like that.
I think the closest is maybe Avatar. Like, I think I saw it within like a week.
For me, it was like maybe...
Or maybe one of the Star Wars movies, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But so we went the day after. Did we see it another time in theaters? No, so we only saw it twice. But this, us rewatching it for this was like our fourth time seeing it.
Yeah, because then we watched it once at the apartment.
Yeah.
And I
think it was on my birthday. It was on my birthday.
I'll check. I have it documented.
I'm telling you it was.
I
remember we got pulled over on the way home.
Yes. Why did we get pulled?
I think my taillight was out.
Taillight. Okay. Well, so we watched it on, February 19th. And I had this to say on Letterboxd. And guess what, folks? I was very happy about this because this was in 2019 we watched it. right before the world shuts down. I wrote this. In a fair and just world where Bohemian Rhapsody is not nominated for anything and comedies get actual respect, this movie would be nominated for Best Score and Best Original Screenplay. I love this movie. I don't have any problems with it. And so...
And you stand by that.
Watching it again, I was thinking as we were watching it, I was like, I think it's kind of... It makes sense because the Academy doesn't really do this sort of thing, but I'm like, there's really no reason why this shouldn't have been nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
It's an airtight script. As we were
saying...
The
script is incredible.
We were saying as we were watching it, no air is getting into the script.
No, this is like the opposite of air, whatever that is.
Airtight.
Keep talking because I want to look up something.
The music is by Cliff Martinez, who is so incredible. And he is such a signature synth sound in his scores.
Oh yeah.
So
he wrote the original Stranger Things.
He did for Only God Forgives, Nicholas Winding Refn movie. That's good. So that just is another added layer. Also, recently, since Mike and I go to the theater so often, we see the same trailers over and over and over again, and I want to rip my hair out. And one trailer we've seen over and over again, let me get through this. Is the Dungeons and Dragons trailer, which upon the first trailer for me, it's like, yeah, fine, this looks fun. I'll see it.
Yeah, I was like, this looks fun.
I got to see it with my D&D friends.
I saw another trailer, and I was like, they showed even more, and I'm like, I think I'm even more on board with this movie.
It looks good, and Chris Pine being casted as a bard works.
Pretty good, yeah.
But it was only the last time we saw this trailer, and we had seen it maybe like 5 or 6 times already.
At least.
And all of a sudden, they're marketing it as the directors who brought you Game Night.
Yeah.
And Mike and I had to look it up to confirm, because the fact that we found that out,
and they spelled it Game Night, like
with
a night.
With a K, which
it's funny.
Funny, but a little confusing.
Yeah.
When it comes to marketing stuff, it's like, you got to keep it as simple as possible, in my opinion.
That's true.
But once we found out that it's like, oh, now I have absolutely no reservations or questions about this.
Yeah.
This script is probably, you guessed it, airtight.
So I'm going to tell you what was nominated for the best screenplay in the year of 2019, which would be the year that this movie would be nominated, 2018. So, best original screenplay, Green Book is the winner.
Okay.
A very bad screenplay. The Favorite, a movie I haven't seen. First Reformed should have beat
First
Green
Reformed
Book.
is the Ethan Hawke one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane that didn't beat it. Roma, Alfonso Cuarón, and Vice.
Wow.
So I would say you could swap out Green Book or Vice for the screenplay.
Yeah.
Easy. It's much better than those movies. I like Vice a lot, actually, but come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And then remember, Rami Malek won Best Actor for Bohemian Rhapsody. Just a reminder.
I don't need to be reminded about that.
What a weird... The Best Actor that year... Listen to this. Rami Malek was nominated. Christian Bale for Vice was nominated, which I don't think is a good nomination.
He's getting up to a point where he is prestigious enough that he's going to get nominated anytime.
Bradley Cooper was nominated. Definitely should have won.
A Star is Born.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate. I didn't see that, so...
Heard it's great, though.
Yeah. And then Viggo Mortensen for Green Book, which is a crazy nomination as well. What a weird year.
Or not one. He was nominated for, lead?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and Mahershala Ali got supporting. And that's crazy because that's not even... Mahershala Ali's awesome. That's his worst performance I've seen, by a long shot.
Isn't that his second Oscar, too?
I believe it is.
Didn't he win for Moonlight?
I believe he did, yeah.
Wasn't that, the year before? Did he win 2 years in a row?
No, I don't think it was 2 years
There was 1 year separating it?
I think so.
That's pretty wild. I agree with you, though.
But he beat out Adam Driver and Sam Elliott.
For Black Klansman, right?
Yeah, and Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? All 3 of those.
Oh, gosh. He's so good in that movie.
But then Sam Rockwell, the funniest nomination for George W. Bush in Vice. No. It's did you guys not watch movies that year? There was plenty of other...
It is a weird movie year.
Yeah. And, I mean, there was a ton of great movies in 2018, but those acting noms, come on. Get it together, Academy, on that. But this year they did.
Yes, they did. Game Night.
This movie, if you have not seen it, I implore you to watch this movie.
This movie, I think, for introducing me to a couple of people.
Yes, please.
First up it introduced me to Sharon Horgan, who plays Sarah. I think this is the first thing I've seen her in. For those who don't know, she is in the new show on Apple, Bad Sisters.
Which is excellent.
As well as This Way Up, Catastrophe, Polling, Voices in Bob's Burgers.
She was in a show called The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret, and that's where I first met her.
She's so funny in this movie.
She's great. She's funny always. She's awesome in Bad Sisters.
Yeah.
Jordan has not watched Bad Sisters yet.
Not yet.
And I've only watched 4 of the 10 episodes.
Micah needs to watch shows on his own sometimes because he's really bad at it. So I gotta let him finish it.
Yeah.
Even though it'll probably take him a year.
No, I've already watched 4 in like 2.5 months.
Yeah. And then we can also thank this movie for introducing us to Billy Magnuson.
Oh!
Hello. Okay, so technically we have seen him in stuff prior to this.
We have.
But this is when he, I think, for both of us, was like, who is this tall drink of water?
Absolutely.
Because he's in The Big Short.
That's right.
I didn't see this movie, and I know you haven't either, but he's also Into the Woods, which I think is, for a lot of people, that's what they maybe recognize him from. But come on.
His last name's Magnuson. The guy's got to be famous.
I mean, look at the guy. He's gorgeous.
And playing the way he plays the doof.
And not in a boring way.
Yeah. The way he plays Doofy in this movie is unbelievable.
So funny. Yeah.
The moment, what is it that we rewound where they're at Jesse Plemons' house, and he says, "You have a picture of us at game night?" And he goes, "Don't you also have a picture of times when you spend time with your friends?" And then it looks at him, and he just kind of nods like, "Oh, okay." And his face like totally loses expression. It's so funny.
And I love the concept that this character, he's very shallow. He just sleeps around with women. And at every game night, which is weekly, he just brings the new girl that he met at the mall.
Yeah.
Who's just ditzy and everything. And when they do that montage of all the girls, they all look the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for this game night, he finally brings a person who is, well, she seems older than him, but like his age.
Right.
And does not fit that type of all those other girls, to prove to his friends that he can recruit, like get a real girlfriend / get someone who can actually compete in these games.
Yeah. Who else?
We also have, wow, I've never seen this guy's name before. Lamorne Morris. Am I saying that right? The guy from New Girl?
I don't know. I don't know him by name. I know him by look.
I think that's his name. Well, I know that's his name, but I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. He's a New Girl. He's also in Barbershop, The Next Cut, Sandy Wexler, Fargo, one of the seasons.
Do not remember him in Fargo.
I think, wait.
Upcoming, maybe?
Upcoming.
Okay.
Upcoming.
Wow, they're doing another one?
I didn't know they were doing another
one.
Okay. So that's fun to find out. Wonder what that.
I'm kind of ready for it to be done, though. Although it's always a different story. So
I liked the last season, but it was my least favorite one for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's him. And then Kylie Bunbury plays Michelle, his wife. She's also in When They See Us, Pitch, Big Sky, and a lot of other stuff. She's also everyone's so funny in this movie.
Yeah.
And then we get a fun cameo from Michael C. Hall.
Yep.
Danny Huston, who was in the Wolverine movie.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
As well as Succession. Also a fun cameo from Chelsea Peretti.
Yeah.
She funny.
Gets billing in this. Full stop billing.
But it's still a cameo, right?
I mean, if you're getting billed, I don't think that's a cameo.
I guess not. And then Kyle Chandler plays Brooks. He is America's dad. I don't know if anyone knows that. You've probably been wondering who America's dad is.
We've talked about this, actually.
It's Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, because we distinguished that Tom Hanks was America's dad, but he is now America's grandpa.
Yeah. So Kyle Chandler has graduated.
Yeah, but he doesn't really play dad roles, so...
I think for me, the first thing I ever saw him in was Super 8.
Uh-huh.
And he is a dad in that movie.
That's true.
And
he is going to take down...
It's a very father-son relationship situation.
No, yeah, he is America's dad because he's now, like taking down the Wolf of Wall Street and Friday Night Lights, a coach. Like these are all.
He's probably a dad in Friday Night Lights, right? I mean, he's a dad of the team.
Well, yeah, and part of being the America's dad is not necessarily playing dad roles, but if you're Tom Hanks and you're starring in like a movie that your dad wants to see, that's a dad movie.
Yeah.
And so Tom Hanks is master of the dad movies, but now he's the grandpa movie. I think A Man Called Otto was like the final straw that he's now grandpa movie.
Is Friday Night Lights good?
I've never seen it.
No one's ever told me to watch it.
I
really doesn't
heard it
seem
was
like
good.
my kind of show.
I don't think it's my kind of show either.
It's definitely an era of television that doesn't exist anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I can see it being comfort food and nostalgic for people who grew up watching it. But it's never been recommended to me.
I feel like
you can't do that.
Having not seen it, so I'm sure there are people that are like, no, it's awesome. But there's a lot of those shows where they're like caught in the middle of like pre-prestige television, but post like just weekly spit them out. And I think that's caught in that thing where it probably has episodes and seasons that are like brilliant, but I would imagine it would just be kind of tough to watch now because it'd be like, I just wish I was watching Sopranos if I'm like watching a show in this time period. Although it's after Sopranos, but still.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And then, like we said, Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman. Rachel
McAdams, as you said, could have chemistry with anyone.
She could have chemistry with a rock.
And that's when I said, if she was starring in a movie with The Rock, I would be excited about The Rock again.
Yeah.
Again, I never was. But
yeah, you liked him in Jumanji. We both did.
But
you have to give him that.
No. But he doesn't excite me. He's never excited me as an actor.
But I just remember we were pleasantly surprised by how we weren't annoyed by him.
That's the only movie he's done in the last like 20 years that is good. Yeah. Like acting. And Fast 5. When he's introduced in Fast 5, that's a great use of him. One of the best movies.
And then, so the directors are John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein.
Yeah.
They will be doing the Dungeons and Dragons movie. For people who don't know, this was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. John Francis Daley is in Bones. He plays Sweets. That was crazy.
Sweet Bone.
It's just Sweets. But when I saw him in the movie, for one, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Sweets from Bones. So cool. And then I found out he directed the friggin' movie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But they both have done a lot of stuff in film.
And they also directed the recent Vacation movie.
Yeah.
With Ed Helms.
And looks like Jonathan Goldstein has a screenplay credit for Horrible Bosses.
Oh, man. A very funny movie.
So, guy's a good writer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that I get a chill this time. I've just been sitting here with my hands behind my back.
Head.
Head. So here's what I want to say about the movie. I think the secret sauce of this movie, number one with a bullet, you got a fantastic screenplay that works on like a level where if you deleted all of the humor, the movie is still an interesting movie. Like it's a good plot. It has good development. It's interesting and fun twists. Number two, with a secondary bullet, the cast is impeccable.
Yeah.
And we kind of haven't seen like these people interacting that much in other movies and stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, they got all of these people together. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so everything's kind of fast. I mean, Jesse Plemons plays a pretty significant role in this movie. And when you see that, you're like, they got this guy?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Then number three, and I think this is the secret sauce that takes it from like, oh, a good comedy to a great comedy, great movie. Like this is what some might call a film.
What did you say?
A great movie.
But who says that?
This is what some might call a film.
It sounded like you said this is what some whites call.
No, I did not say that. Though I am white and I am calling it a great film.
Okay.
Yes. It is the attention to the technical aspects of the filming.
Yeah.
In ways that comedies often don't do.
No. The whole thing's so well thought out. So many transition shots are shot to make the environment look like miniatures.
Yep.
Therefore, making it look like a board game.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then you have like the stunt choreography on the fights is genuinely great. And I said this and it took me a second to convince you, but I thought to myself, without John Wick in 2014, this movie doesn't have this great action. Because I think that's how influential the John Wick turn was.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wanted to argue it, but it's the 4-year anniversary, and I chose the movie.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. It's just I think the fact that we have that kind of action in a comedy movie at all is wild.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, there's stuff where you're watching it and you're like, oh, this isn't like the actors just showing up on set. They have to rehearse this stuff.
Yeah.
Like when they're tossing the Fabergé egg around, like that's a one shot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like a true oneer, but it's like serves its purpose and it's great. And it's like, I'm watching a comedy. Why did they put this much effort into this?
That's a funny thing to think about when you're thinking about things that are just funny and light and humorous. It's like, I don't work that hard on it.
Let the jokes do all the work.
Yeah. But no, guys. If
Elevate it if you can.
Yeah, do as much as you can to it.
And then number 4 that can't be underestimated is the score to this movie is genuinely great. Mm-hmm. I mean, how often are comedy scores worth writing home about? What About Bob? Certainly.
Yeah. Who did that score?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But it's got the rung ba bung 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 bung. I remember rewatching that movie after having because when we were kids, that's a classic. If your dad existed, he loves What About Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was a pastor, he especially loves What About Bob. There's something, someone could write a dissertation.
There's something that in a correlation with pastors specifically?
There's something with pastors. Because you will hear pastors and it,
That's true. Reference in sermons?
Absolutely. I've heard Kenner do it. I think the guy at Heritage do it. I've heard my dad do it. Like, if you're a pastor, you love What About Bob, and you're going to bring it around to a sermon every couple of years. And so,
if you don't have any football, if we're not in season with football,
yeah,
we're gonna throw in a What About Bob reference.
If you're not making a joke about, I know it's Super Bowl Sunday and all of you people want to get out of here, but we got to talk about God. And I
promised my wife I wouldn't wear my jersey on.
Oh man, yeah. Whenever that happens, I'm like, oh, why did I show up? I don't want to hear about football. But anyway, so I saw that movie so many times.
Yeah.
To a point where it became like the same way with my dad and Johnny Cash, where it reached a point where I was like, Johnny Cash, I kind of don't like these things because I'm hearing and seeing them so much.
Okay.
But About Bob, I never fully didn't like.
Yeah.
But I rewatched it, after like 6 or 7 years of not having seen it. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, this score is unbelievable. I've never noticed how good this score is. And that movie rules.
Uh-huh.
Game night.
Yeah. Can I make a confession?
Yeah.
I don't like games.
Yeah, you don't.
And
you're confessing that to them, not me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You've known this for a couple years now because I've talked to you about it.
I've kind of always known you don't like games.
Yeah, but I've admitted it fully.
Yeah.
The last couple years, I don't like games.
Do you want to elaborate on that, Jordan?
I don't care to learn how to play a game that I'm going to play one time. Because you and I hardly play games.
Yeah.
In general, our friend group hardly play board games in general. And for me, when it's time to learn a new type of game, I immediately get annoyed.
Right.
And much of the time I power through because that's not fun.
Yeah. No, it's not.
But it's don't enjoy learning all these new rules in this new world that I'm gonna play for maybe an hour or two and never play again.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't feel like it's worth the time for me. I don't care about the competitive nature of board games mostly. So
you don't like this movie.
But I still love this movie.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. This movie's great.
Yeah.
It's about games.
So the kind of the plot of the movie is you got Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, and they are trying to have a baby. I had forgotten about that point, and when we were watching it, I'm like, wow, how appropriate for us to watch this movie right now. And they are they're hosting game nights, and then his brother comes into town.
His cool brother.
And he's like, hey, I'm doing an epic game night, and I'm going to, when it happens, there's real actors, all that stuff. Then he gets real kidnapped. And and then the story starts going, and people don't realize that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Although we will find out later, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, that it wasn't real until like the end of the movie when like the real guys come in.
Mm-hmm.
Because their neighbor was trying to get them to include him in game night again.
So, you and I have played a murder mystery game one time. And it was so fun.
It was very fun.
And I've always wanted to do it again.
Yeah, me too.
And this just reminded me of that time. Man, that was a fun time.
Yeah.
I thought you had more to say about it, but you don't, I guess.
It was great. It was really fun.
Some people got really into character.
What's funny is most people started speaking in crazy accents.
Mm-hmm.
Not most, but several. But by the end, everyone's accent morphed into, "Oh, what you talking about? Come on, stay away from my gabagool," you know? So everyone turned into Italian. And so one started as like a Southerner, and he turned Italian by the end. And then I think another one
was trying to be British
and turned Italian by the end. And I'm talking Italian, New Jersey, you know, doing that sort of thing. It was very funny. And
it was a dinner party. So it was, we played it through like several courses.
Yep.
And shout out to Lauren who put it together. She figured it all out and did it. We didn't like have it hosted by a company or something like that.
Yeah. And I just remember, and this probably won't make sense to anyone because you didn't play the murder mystery, but it's like a great bit amongst our friends where we were wondering where someone was when something happened. Mm-hmm. And it was like, how come you were out in the cornfield when the murder happened? And then, so it was like, Evan, you were out in the cornfield when this happened. And then it was like, Kateri, like both their characters were out in the cornfield, and it was like, what were you doing out in the cornfield? Perhaps murder. And he yells above everyone. He goes, I was getting mine. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And we just died laughing.
Yeah.
So there were two murders that night.
Our murder mystery didn't end up the way that it did in this movie.
No, it did not. But yeah, the movie's just incredible. I don't know. It's an anniversary episode. What more do you want from us?
Yeah, it's pretty like all the airtightness of it is how simple the script is. Of course, it becomes convoluted fast because they're unraveling the Brooks's past. They find out that he's a smuggler and a terrible person.
Yeah,
and his cool facade has just been a facade that he's built up his whole life, and Jason Bateman's character has always been very jealous of him and has wanted to be him his whole life, and comes to this conclusion of like, I do not want this life. I do not want to be like my brother. And that's part of what has contributed to him being nervous about having children. Because
being impotent.
Yeah.
Impotent.
And he isn't as cool as his brother, as accomplished of a person. But then going through this experience is like, no, our kids are going to be great because they're going to be our kids.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of a resonating thing because I feel like in my experience in life, there's certain life events that are always painted a certain way. So, for example, marriage. Everyone's always like, oh, man, marriage is so great. You should get married. But everyone always just goes, oh, boy, is it tough, though. And they kind of have almost like their head down. Not everyone, but a lot of people I knew, their head down like, ooh. You never know what life is like until you get married. And so you kind of dread it. And we're 5 years into this thing, having the time of our lives. Mm-hmm. And it's so much fun to be married. And there were a couple people that were like, yeah, it's fun. And you hear that with kids. It's like, oh, your whole life. I think for the most part, people are like, it's amazing. You're going to love it. But they're still like, your whole life's going to change. You're not going to have time to do anything ever. Mm-hmm. And so I think like our society kind of paints like if you have artistic endeavors, you can't get married and you can't have kids because they're going to hinder your artistic endeavors. Mm-hmm. And so I think those things have always clouded my mind until we got married and I was like, oh, we help each other.
It actually is. I mean, being a creative person and having artistic pursuits is never easy.
No.
In many ways, but it made it a lot easier for both of us. to be married and doing it.
We have a support system, and it helps a lot. And so I know that things are definitely going to change, and time is going to be different. But in this movie, this is kind of like the thing that they're discussing, where it's like when we have kids, our life doesn't end; it like begins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love kind of applying that to my life, where it's like, yeah, when we have our child, it's gonna change everything. But that doesn't mean like I can't write music and we can't record podcasts and you can't write books and you can't make zines. Like we can still do all of this stuff. It'll be different. And I'm sure we will always be like, man, I would imagine we might even wonder why we waited so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing here.
I know.
But that's one of the messages of this movie, and I find it very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel McAdams.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just the best.
Yeah, she is.
And Jason Bateman's the best.
Yeah.
And Billy Magnuson's the best.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Do you have more on the movie you want to talk about?
I just really love it, and it's a really fun time, and it's a laugh a minute.
Laugh a minute, yeah. Perhaps every 30 seconds. And having seen the movie 4 times, we had like genuine LOLs again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A rewind moment for a movie we've seen 4 times that we were pretty sure we rewound at the same moment the last time we watched it, but it had been long enough that we forgot.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It is like the gold standard. And guess what? It's a 5 out of 5 star movie for me.
Same.
I put it up there with Your Godfather. I put it up there with The Empire Strikes Back. All that stuff. Return of the King, Game Night. It's there.
Sometimes you just gotta laugh.
Nanook of the North. It's there.
Nanook of the North is a 5-star for you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay,
that movie rocked my world.
Cool. I haven't seen it, but so, yeah.
Yeah, folks, you should watch Nanook of the North.
And then watch the documentary now about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I guess it's not funny.
It was funny, but it was a little long, it felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for giving us 4 years. Here's to 4 more, I guess.
Did we announce last year for the movie what we're going to do the next year?
We did. So I chose Game Night.
Yeah.
And the year before you had chosen Scott Pilgrim versus the World. What are we doing next year, Jordan?
There Will Be Blood.
I knew it.
I
knew it. That one we might need to do a little bit of research, right?
But I think it'd be more fun too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we never get to talk about PTA.
No.
And he's one of our fave directors.
Not until he makes Magnolia 2 next year. Thanks for listening. Please steal your friends' phones and rate our show. Get us up to way more reviews. Get us up to 50, please.
That'd be cool.
50 patrons, 50 reviews. Come on. We love you guys, and we do appreciate your listenership.
Have a game night in our honor, but don't invite me.